Hey, my name's Karen. And before I tell you my story, I want to ask you something. Has your own family ever made you feel like you didn't belong? Like they just forgot you were part of them? Maybe it was a wedding, a birthday party, a reunion, maybe even your own child's graduation and nobody saved you a seat. Where are you watching from today? I'd really like to know. And if something like this has ever happened to you, tell me about it in the comments. Because when my sister got married, my whole family left me out. They laughed. They mocked me. But I didn't break down. I made a quiet plan. And I got even. I still remember the exact moment it hit me. I was sitting at my kitchen table drinking my usual evening tea when my phone buzzed. It was a message in the family group chat. I clicked it open and saw a picture of a wedding invitation. No, hi Karen, no message, not even a simple "we can't wait to see you." Just an image. Sent to everyone at once. For a second I stared at it thinking maybe I had missed something. Maybe she had sent me a private message before. I scrolled, checked. Nothing. No personal invite, no warmth, just a photo tossed into the group like I was one of those distant relatives you invite out of guilt. It was my little sister's wedding. And somehow I felt like a stranger. I took a deep breath, trying not to feel too much. Maybe she was busy. Maybe it was just a rushed message. So I called her. I waited while the line rang twice, 3 times. Finally she answered, sounding distracted. "Oh hey Karen," she said. No excitement, no joy. Just casual. "Hey," I said, keeping my tone light. "So, I saw the wedding invite in the group chat. I just wanted to confirm, should I book a hotel nearby, or are there rooms for everyone?" She hesitated for a second. I could hear her flipping through something in the background. "Oh, yeah. So, we didn't really plan for extra rooms. I mean, of course you can come, but yeah, we didn't book anything for you. Most of the close family already picked theirs." Close family. That's what she said. Close family. I was silent for a second. She didn't even seem to realize what she had just said. "Oh okay," I replied, pretending it didn't bother me. "I'll figure something out." Then in the background I heard my mother's voice. Loud and clear. "Oh, we forgot about her," she laughed. "Karen's always so last minute anyway. She'll be fine." They both laughed. My sister didn't mute it. She didn't even try to soften the moment. Something inside me cracked a little. But I stayed quiet. I laughed along. Said no worries. Like it didn't sting. Like it didn't feel like someone had pushed me aside again. I hung up after a few minutes, made some excuse about being busy and sat there alone in my kitchen. The clock ticked louder than usual. The silence in the room started to feel heavier. I looked around and felt that strange feeling. The one you get when you realize people you love don't see you the same way you see them. It wasn't the first time either. That's the part that hurt more than anything. It had happened before in smaller ways. At Mom's 60th birthday party when I was asked to take photos instead of sitting with the family at the main table. Or during last Christmas when I brought gifts and left with nothing. It was like I had become the background of their lives. Present but not important. I thought maybe this wedding would be different. I hoped this time they'd remember me like I remembered them. I was wrong. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing their laughter in my head, that mocking tone. "Oh, we forgot about her." I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was just numb. A strange kind of hurt that doesn't even let you cry. You just sit there thinking, why? Why am I always the one left out? Why am I always the afterthought? I work hard. I've never asked them for anything. And yet, when it comes to love, support, or even just basic respect, I get scraps. I didn't sleep much that night. But something in me shifted. I stopped expecting warmth. And I started thinking. The next morning I woke up early. I barely slept, but I couldn't lie in bed anymore. My head was heavy, but my chest was heavier. I walked into the kitchen, made myself a cup of coffee, and stood by the window looking out at the street. That stupid sentence kept repeating in my mind. "Oh, we forgot about her." Funny how 5 words can dig up years of buried hurt. It wasn't just this wedding. This had been going on for years. I don't know when it started, but I had always felt like the extra piece in a puzzle that didn't quite fit. I was the middle child. Quiet, dependable, not the golden one, not the dramatic one. I remembered my 30th birthday. Nobody called. Nobody. My younger sister posted beach photos on Instagram that day. My mom said later, "Oh honey, we thought you were working." My dad just said, "You don't really celebrate, do you?" They always had a reason. And Christmas, Well, that had turned into a routine joke. Everyone else had matching pajamas, stockings hanging by the fireplace with their names. Mine was a plain red sock tossed at the end of the couch. "We weren't sure if you'd come," Mom once said. I had come every year. Every single year. But the worst was the blame. Anytime something went wrong, I was the easy target. If my siblings fought, I was told I should have kept the peace. If someone forgot to bring a dish to dinner, it was, "Karen, why didn't you remind us?" I was the convenient villain. The emotional dump bin. And yet, when they needed something, they called me. 2 years ago, when my sister got engaged, Mom called in the middle of the night. "Your dad's short this month," she said. "Can you help out a little? It's for the engagement party." I didn't hesitate. I wired the money the next day, $3,000. No questions, no contract, just love. That same amount quietly turned into part of the wedding fund. Nobody ever mentioned it again. Not during the planning. Not during the dress shopping. Not when they were picking the venue. They never said thank you. Not once. It was like my support didn't count, like my kindness was invisible. And now they had the nerve to tell me there were no rooms planned for me? I stood there that morning holding my coffee, and I made a quiet decision. No loud fights. No crying over the phone. I wasn't going to beg to be treated like family. Instead, I opened my laptop, found the name of the hotel from the wedding invite, and looked it up. It was a beautiful place. Ocean view, marble floors, big glass windows. The kind of venue you pick to show off. I clicked on the accommodations tab, scrolling slowly until I saw it. The Penthouse suite. Top floor. Private balcony. Full kitchen. Separate entrance. Reserved for CEOs, celebrities, and people who didn't need to ask for space, they just took it. I clicked book now. My hand hovered for a second, not because of the money, I had enough saved. I hesitated because this wasn't like me. I wasn't the kind who made statements. I wasn't the showy sister. But maybe I should have been. I entered my card details. Confirmed the reservation for the full wedding weekend. Friday to Sunday. Paid in full. No discount, no favors. Just me finally choosing myself. When the confirmation email came through, I stared at it for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and texted my sister. "Hey, just booked a place nearby. No worries about the rooms. See you soon." She replied a few minutes later. "Oh, perfect. Yeah, we're all on the 3rd floor." I smiled to myself. She didn't ask where I booked. He didn't care. But she would. They all would. And not because I wanted to hurt anyone. No. I just wanted them to see me. To really see me. The day of the wedding came faster than I expected. I had taken an early flight, wanting to settle in before the chaos started. The plane landed just after sunrise, and a soft golden light spilled across the tarmac as I looked out the window. Not excited, not nervous. Just steady. The hotel car picked me up from the airport. The driver was polite, called me ma'am, and asked if I was in town for a celebration. I just smiled and said, something like that. When we pulled up to the hotel, I could see the wedding banners already being installed at the main entrance. A large welcome board with my sister's name and her fiancé's hung over the glass doors. Guests informal, where we're arriving with rolling suitcases, hugging each other, checking in at the front desk. But I didn't go through the lobby. I took the private elevator from the side entrance. One reserved for Penthouse guests only. My check-in was done discreetly with a separate concierge who offered me a glass of sparkling water and a warm towel. Everything was quiet, clean, efficient. When the elevator doors opened on the top floor, I stepped into another world. The Penthouse was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows, 2 living rooms, a wraparound balcony that looked down directly onto the hotel's garden, where the wedding was going to take place. I could already see the white chairs being lined up in rows, the flower arches being set up. From where I stood, I had the perfect view. The bedroom was bigger than my entire apartment. The sheets were silk. The bathroom had a marble tub with jets. There was a private chef on call if I wanted one. I didn't. I just wanted quiet. I opened my suitcase, hung up my dress, and took a long shower. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't rushing for anyone. I wasn't scrambling to help. I wasn't an afterthought. I was in control of my own moment. I headed down later that afternoon to grab a quick coffee from the cafe in the lobby. That's when I ran into them. The elevator stopped on the 3rd floor. When the doors opened, I saw my mom, my dad, and my older brother standing there with luggage and a few gift bags. My mom blinked first, her mouth parting slightly. My brother gave me a polite smile, but his eyes scanned me top to bottom like he couldn't understand what I was doing there. "Oh, Karen," my mom said. "You're here already?" I nodded. "Just got in a few hours ago." She stepped into the elevator next to me. "You look fresh." I nodded again. The silence in the elevator was sharp. You could hear the floor numbers blink as we went up. My dad cleared his throat. "So, where are you staying?" Mom asked casually, but I could hear the stiffness in her voice. I looked at her and smiled. "I'm right above you." She blinked again. "Above us?" "The penthouse," I said. "It's lovely." Dead silence. My brother let out a soft, "Oh." My dad pretended to look at the elevator buttons like they were suddenly interesting. The elevator stopped at their floor. They stepped out slowly, still processing. As the doors closed again, I caught my mom looking over her shoulder, eyes wide. Back in my room, I sat down by the window and took a deep breath. I didn't feel smug. I didn't feel angry. Just peaceful. Like I had finally answered a question that had followed me for years. No one had ever really seen my value. But today they were starting to. Later, while walking through the hallway near the banquet rooms, I bumped into a few cousins. Their eyes lit up when they saw me. "We didn't know you were coming," one of them said. "I wasn't sure either," I replied. "Glad I made it." I didn't say anything about the suite. I didn't have to. Word travels fast in families. And apparently mine was buzzing. That evening, just before the rehearsal dinner, I saw my sister. She was standing by the garden with her bridesmaids, laughing loudly. When she saw me, her expression froze for a second, just one beat, but then she waved. "Karen, you made it." I walked over, hugged her lightly. "You didn't tell us you were already checked in," she said, eyebrows raised. "I figured I'd settle in quietly," I said. "Didn't want to be in the way." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Where are you staying, by the way?" "Penthouse," I said simply. She blinked, then laughed awkwardly. "Well, you always did like your quiet." "I do," I said. And I finally stopped waiting for an invite to enjoy it. I watched her face tighten just a little, but she nodded. "Well, enjoy the view." "Oh, I am," I said. "Especially from the top." That night, after the rehearsal dinner, I didn't go down to the family lounge. I knew they were expecting me to show up, probably to take group photos or be on drink duty like I used to. But I had other plans. I ordered a simple meal through room service. Roasted chicken, some seasoned vegetables, and fresh bread. I didn't want anything fancy. Just real food. Real peace. Then I made a few calls. Over the years, there were always cousins and relatives who were also treated like background decorations in our family. The ones who weren't the stars, who never got credit, who were used for favors but ignored during big moments. I had stayed in touch with a few of them. I sent them short messages. "Hey, I'm in town for the wedding too. Got a little space up here if you're around." One by one they started showing up. A cousin who had traveled all the way from Texas and was given a shared room with no privacy. Another who hadn't been invited to the rehearsal dinner at all. A distant aunt who had been asked to babysit during the reception because she wasn't doing much anyway. They came with tired eyes and polite smiles, and when they stepped into the penthouse, I saw the tension in their shoulders drop. I didn't throw a party. It was just dinner. We sat around, plates in our laps, the lights dim, soft laughter bouncing off the high ceilings. No pressure. No fake greetings. No family politics. Just a bunch of people who knew how it felt to be left out. Someone brought a small speaker and played some old jazz in the background. One of my cousins toasted with sparkling water and said, "To being invisible, until we're not." We all laughed. Not loud but deeply. Like we'd waited years to hear that kind of honesty. And then word started spreading. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet. Like a whisper traveling through the halls. Apparently, someone posted a picture from the balcony of the penthouse. You could see the skyline, the champagne glasses, the warm lighting. It didn't look like a party. It looked like a retreat. Like the kind of evening people dreamed about when they were stuck in a loud, crowded banquet hall full of forced small talk. Within the next hour, I started hearing knocks on the door. A few more guests showed up. Not the main ones, not the inner circle, but the ones who had felt like extras in someone else's story. A young cousin who'd been told she couldn't bring a +1. An older relative who had no seat at the reception dinner because someone forgot to RSVP for her. They all ended up in the penthouse. By the second hour we ran out of chairs. People sat on the floor on pillows, leaning against the window ledge. It wasn't fancy, but it was kind. And people could feel the difference. I heard someone say, "This feels more like a wedding than downstairs." I didn't plan that. I didn't expect it. But it happened. At one point I stepped out onto the balcony and looked down at the reception below. From the top, you could see the white tent glowing with fairy lights, the dance floor half full, a few people checking their phones at the tables. The music was loud but the energy was off. Then I heard the knock. A hard, fast one this time. I opened the door and saw my sister. She didn't smile. "You think this is funny?" she snapped, stepping inside without being invited. "You're seriously up here throwing your own party during my wedding?" I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her. "People are leaving," she continued. "They're coming up here instead. My reception is half empty and my fiancé's mom is asking where everyone went. What are you trying to prove?" I took a deep breath. "I'm not trying to prove anything," I said quietly. "You forgot to include me. I just created space for people like me." She scoffed. "That's such a victim thing to say. You could have just come and joined us. We had a seat for you." I tilted my head. "Where? Between the cousins you forgot to feed or in the room you didn't reserve?" Her face twisted just for a second. "This is my day," she snapped again. "And I'm not taking it from you," I said. "But maybe ask yourself why people are choosing to be here." She looked around the room. People had gone quiet. They weren't staring or making a scene. Just quietly observing. My aunt nodded slowly at her. One cousin turned her face away, pretending to sip water. For the first time my sister didn't have a comeback. She just stood there, arms folded, breathing hard. Then she turned and walked out without saying another word. When the door closed behind her, the room stayed silent for a while. I walked back toward the center and sat down again. "I didn't mean for this to happen," I said softly to the group. "We know," someone replied. "That's why it did." We sat like that for a long time. Some talking, some not. Just a quiet collection of people who had learned the hard way that sometimes family forgets you, until you remind them who you are. And for once I didn't feel like an outsider in my own bloodline. I felt seen. The morning after the wedding was quieter than I expected. I didn't rush down to join the crowd at breakfast. Instead, I stayed in the penthouse a little longer, looking out over the city and thinking about what had happened the night before. I had never wanted to cause trouble. I just wanted to be seen. Really seen. To be treated like family, not an afterthought. As the day went on, something surprising started to happen. Photos began showing up on social media. Mostly from the wedding guests who had slipped away from the reception. They were pictures taken on the balcony inside the penthouse, with smiles so genuine they almost looked like they belonged in a magazine. People were sharing them and tagging friends. "You look so happy," one comment said. "Where is this place? Looks better than the reception hall," another wrote. The photos went viral in our little family circle and the chatter began. Aunties and uncles who never said much started whispering to each other at brunches and family dinners. "She handled it with so much grace," one aunt said. "I expected a scene, but she just quietly took control." "She didn't scream or cause drama," an uncle added. "Just showed everyone what real strength looks like." I smiled quietly to myself when I heard these words through the grapevine. Because this was never about making a scene. It was about dignity. About proving that being overlooked didn't mean I was powerless. A week passed and I thought things would settle down, but then the unexpected happened. One afternoon I got an email from one of the wedding vendors, the catering company. They'd sent their invoice not to my sister or my parents but to me. First I was confused. Then I remembered. Years ago when my parents started planning this wedding, I had quietly given them a loan to help cover some of the expenses. I never asked for thanks or recognition. To me, family was supposed to support each other without keeping score. But seeing that invoice, realizing my money had paid for 40% of that wedding I was almost excluded from, stirred up a mix of emotions. Part of me was angry. Part of me felt betrayed. But mostly I felt strong. I replied to the vendor politely, asking for the full breakdown of costs, and double-checked with my parents about the loan. They admitted it had been used to pay some bills but had never been officially recorded. So I did something my family didn't expect. I sent an email to my sister. It was calm, polite, and to the point. I told her I was writing off the loan, because memories were worth more than money. I said I hoped this wedding would be the start of a new chapter for all of us. No blame. No bitterness. Just a clear message that I was moving forward. Of course, she didn't reply right away. But I wasn't waiting on her approval anymore. Because the real win wasn't about money or making them pay. It was about standing tall when they tried to push me down. It was about creating a space where I belonged, even if I had to build it myself. A few days later, my phone buzzed with messages from family members I hadn't heard from in years. "I'm sorry for how you were treated," one cousin wrote. "Thank you for showing us a better way," said an aunt. Even some of my parents' friends reached out privately to say they admired how I handled everything. That's when I knew. I hadn't just survived their neglect. I had quietly, firmly reclaimed my place in the family. So, if you're watching this and feeling left out, ignored, or forgotten, remember this. You don't have to shout or fight to be noticed. Sometimes the strongest message is sent by showing your worth quietly but clearly. Let your success, your dignity, and your calm confidence do the talking. Because when your family forgets your worth, it's up to you to remind them. Without shouting. Without drama. Just with grace. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever been left out or underestimated, I'd love to hear how you handled it. Leave a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. We're stronger than they think.